Welcome back to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. We're brought to you by Yak Gadget. For all your kayak fishing accessory needs, go to yakgadget.com. Pelican cases, coolers, and lighting. Go to pelican.com. The 153 Bait Company. For all your hard and soft bait needs, go to the153anglers.com. Now let's get this show started.
Welcome back to the final cast. I'm your host, Josh. I'm recording solo because Brad's a slacker. Just kidding, Brad. And I got my dude, my homie, Mr. Mike Grimsley. What's up, dude?
What's up, bud?
Not much, man. We just threw this one together because Brad and I suck. And we're starting to run out of stuff to talk about. And then we had a mix up about that our upcoming episode, which you helped me set up with Kind Designs. And I have a call with him tomorrow to see if he's interested in doing the pod. So we realized we didn't have something set up for tonight. So I thought I'd reach out to some of my buddies, and you were like, I'll help you out.
Hey, whatever you need, bud.
Now, I'm going to need Mike to loosen up. Come on, Mike.
Right.
Get yourself. Do you have any beer, bro? Do you have a beer?
Yeah. Little ling ling.
All right. Chug it.
Nah.
I was just commenting before we started. Mike is looking slim and fit. How's it going?
Fit's a stretch. Slim even more.
But you lost 16 pounds, man.
I had to get my my dry suit. Those are they don't make him in maternity fits.
This is going to be a soccer player.
I have to wear my Spanx underneath them.
Oh, gosh. Oh, this is going to be a good episode. So I invited Mike on this week. There's been a lot of talk and a lot of I don't want to say a lot, a little bit of controversy regarding your live action fish finders and that sort of thing. Mike, you ran, you want to go ahead and share with everybody what you ran this past season? You were kind of like halfway through the season with it, right? Yeah,
I didn't have Livescope through the whole season. I upgraded over the winter from I'm a Garmin guy. The 93 Chirp, which wasn't touchscreen, which is kind of a pain in the butt to navigate around. And then I upgraded with the Black Friday special last year with the 93 UHD, which I've enjoyed. It's great. It's been great. Still is great. And then I said I'd never do it, but I had an opportunity to get an amazing deal on the Livescope. And I'm way better at, putting stuff on my kayak than I am fishing. So it's like, what else can I spend money on? I got the Torpedo, I got everything else. So I figured I'd try it. And for the price I got it, I knew that I wouldn't lose money if I didn't like it or I didn't use it.
Yeah.
And I would say it's probably just in the last, I'd say 2 months, where I really feel like I've got it figured out and I'm using it effectively often.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the equipment that you found. What did it include? What did you need? What did you do? Because for those who don't know, Mike's been on the episode before, so I'm sure we've talked about what kayak he has. If not, New Rock 2020 360, right? Hobie PA14.
Yeah, yep, PA14 360. I got it in December 2019. It's been great. I came from a 180. The 180 was fantastic. I'm just kind of a gear freak. I like having the latest, greatest. It's been unbelievable. You couldn't pry it out of my hands right now. I wouldn't trade it for the sparkliest of bass boats, to be honest.
I know Mike has a lot of conversations with people online regarding how awesome.
I've tempered myself.
So what did Livescope, what did you get? What are you running, like new fish finder completely, or was this something that was able to, incorporate with your current setup?
So I guess I have to back up a little bit just through the 93 UHD when I put that on there. I hate fishing behind people. I hate fishing highly pressured water.
Yeah.
So, the idea of being able to find fish effectively offshore, maybe something that no one else has found, or at least not a lot of people have found, just kind of led me to start leaning heavily on my electronics. And then, it got to be pretty annoying where I couldn't tell which way I was facing on my sonar. I would find something really cool, drop a waypoint on it, and I'm casting, but when the little icon on your boat on your charts starts flopping around, and that led me to do some research and found out what the GPS pucks do for you.
Yeah.
So I guess I assumed that it was going to keep my boat facing where I was actually facing. So what that does is it actually, every GPS has an antenna built into it.
Yeah.
But the only way that it knows which way you're going is by which way you're traveling, which we know, in kayaks, it doesn't take a lot of wind to make us drift one way or another.
Yeah.
But, and then only updates, I think it's only like once every 5 seconds. So if you're trying to find a brush pile, rock pile, an edge of something, you can overshoot it real easy. So what that GPS puck does for you, it operates on 10 hertz, which means it updates 10 times every second. So that got me exactly where I needed to be. I wasn't overshooting something and having to go back. But what I didn't realize it didn't do is Garmin makes another piece called the SteadyCast, which I added, which basically is a electronic compass. So now whenever I'm on a spot, I mean, I can cast right on top of a 3-foot diameter section. And I know it's there, and I could feel it. So that was great. So I started really, really doing the offshore thing, and just, it killed me in tournaments because if I would have been fine if I would have just went and did it what everyone else was doing.
Yeah.
But that trying to find that, throw those Hail Marys, it worked a couple times, but mostly it kind of killed me. But so adding the Livescope was pretty cool. I was at first, it's just really hard to get set up. It's not something that you can just set and say, oh, I got that set. Like everything on my 93 as far as side imaging, down imaging, all that stuff was, I got good settings, and I don't think I've changed that since I've gotten it, honestly. But the Livescope is something that you need to have close. My graph is right about my right knee. I cast right-handed, real left, spinning and casting. But it's always right there at my fingertips. I'm always playing with the on the Livescope, the range and the the how far out it's looking, the depth, and then the gain. Everything else you can kind of set up if you're fishing the same types of water, but every time you put it in, you're having to adjust it a little bit, and then you're constantly making adjustments depending on the depth and everything else.
Yeah.
So the thing about Livescope is it's got a very narrow horizontal dispersion. I think it's 18 degrees, but very wide vertical. Yeah. So you can see down far, but you have to be pointing straight at it. And with that Livescope transducer, a lot of guys have it on a swivel so that they can turn it to try to find the fish. And with the 360, that what it enabled me to do is mine is fixed. I put it down and it's aimed parallel with the keel on my boat.
Yeah.
So whatever way my boat's pointing, I know that's what I'm seeing on the screen. And then I can just use the 360. I'll cant it a little bit one way or another and just, kind of swing until it comes back into focus, even if it's windy.
Yeah.
So that really helped. I probably use perspective mode more than anything. So, I can lift it up. My Livescope transducers is right by my hip. So it's on just like a little ram ball and a little claw aluminum tube. So I can flip that up, and then I flip it over sideways perspective. So what it does is then it gives you that 18 degrees now vertical, but 130 degrees horizontal dispersion.
Okay.
So if I'm in less than, I'd say probably 12, 13 feet is about as deep as you want to go on those. But I could look down and I could tell you, I could see, logs laying down there. I could see rock piles. I could see brush piles. You're not really looking at fish. You can see fish. And what you're usually seeing is just the shadow of them going through your transducer.
Yeah.
But again, I would say I use my electronics more to find where fish should be, rather than, actually having to put eyes on them.
Right.
And especially the Livescope, because Livescope is not a search tool. You've got to find something and then you're scanning. I'm not, when I go from point A to B, which, I do a lot,
Yeah.
that I just reach over and I'll pull that thing right out of the water.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of, you're finding the spot that you want to fish with your standard, setup with your down imaging, side imaging, but then you're using that to kind of pick apart the spot within the spot at that point.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I've been doing, I was down at Dale Hollow, I think it was like early December.
Yeah.
I went down there with some guys, Andrew Carpenter, Jake Apking, and Drew Neer.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole different body of water. And that winter, they're kind of still early. It was the water still in the low 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't really grouped up, but the side, I try to find something. You see something on the side imaging, you kind of peel back, and then you kind of break it down a little bit, and then I'll drop a waypoint right on top of it, pull back off of that, and then kind of work it from there. And as you saw, if you saw that video of me making a fool of myself.
If you guys haven't seen it, you guys got to check out Michael Grimsley on Facebook. And he's got one of the best videos I've ever seen of the attempt to fish it was a blade bait, right?
Yeah, it was a blade bait. That's once the water hits right around 50 degrees, that's my favorite. So, but it was pretty embarrassing. And that was one of the first time I just had bought a GoPro and started running a GoPro, and I couldn't not share that with everybody to give them a little bit of a laugh, because I talk so much smack, and I think people think I'm serious, but I'm really kind of just a clown out there most of the time, just making a fool of myself. So
we've had a lot of fun times fishing, and I made the comment on your post. I was like, out of everything that I just watched, this was the least amount of cursing and anger that I'd ever seen out of Mike while he was fishing. Because normally I can hear Mike clear across a lake cussing usually when things aren't going right.
You see me at my best and worst. So I think the camera being on me is actually it helps me kind of be like, yeah, it's pretty interesting. The cool thing about that video is from the angle that I have, I'm really just kind of figuring out how I want to do it. Yeah. You could see the fish finder pretty well, and you could see on Livescope the bait ball and the predator fish just slicing through it. I mean, they were ultra active and just going through this bait ball nonstop for it was about a good 20 minutes of just fast and furious action. I had caught 2 fish right before that. The first 3 fish I caught were there's a smallmouth, a spot, and then a largemouth. So it was a mixed bag there. It was a lot of fun. But half of my footage I haven't figured out. I don't have it like you where I can tell them what to do and do the loop mode and all that stuff. So half of my footage that I went through was me peeing or eating or going 5 miles an hour across the lake. I was like, I don't fish a whole lot when I'm out there.
That's why you had to get Livescope. You had to make the best of the little bit of time you gave yourself.
Yeah. So there's some good video on there that I can't really put on. I'll tell you one thing. So that was my first experience wearing my dry suit too. I got a Kokatat, the semi-dry suit. So it's got the neoprene neck instead of the one like you have, where I was watching you get choked out the whole time.
So sucks.
We were there that weekend where those tragic tornadoes went through Western Kentucky, and they were calling for 50-mile-an-hour gusts that next day on the lake. We were all in good boats. We all had motors, so it wasn't a big deal. We were out there, but first experience of the dry suit, the relief zippers is my friend. As you know, I'm kind of tiny tank, so it's about every 20 minutes. So I all you can see on the camera is me standing up with my back to the camera and releasing some liquid ballast, we'll call it. And I'll just say I let it go and it came back inside and I wasn't done. So I had a wet leg for the rest of the day.
I wish I would have been there, dude. That'd have been hilarious.
Oh yeah, it was. It was.
At least I'm warm.
Yeah, it was very bad. Yeah, but I really like that dry suit. It's nice having that peace of mind, and for you to stop giving me crap when I go out.
Well, it's because you submit pictures in December wearing a fleece and jeans. And shit.
Well, well, if you look at that video of me missing those fish about 50 times before I finally tried to throw my rod at them, I was in a t-shirt.
It was actually kind of awkwardly warm, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the water was 53 and the air temperature was probably I think 56, 57 that day. So it was not far off that 120 mark, but I have so much confidence in my boat. You know, about the only way that I'm going to go swimming is if I fall out of the boat. So,
or you miss a fish 50 times.
The best part about that Livescope, I think it was the only reason my rod didn't go down in the drink. So
yeah, that was hilarious. I mean, Mike misses this fish like, I don't know what, 15 times, 10 to 15 times, just back to back to back to back. And you're like, what's happening? And you can see it building. And then you finally hook it, and everything that transpires after that just is icing on the cake.
Yeah. So I use those Cincy Fishers, makes a great blade bait. And they got these really sharp, sticky mustad hooks they put on them. And we use them to catch hybrid stripers in the Ohio River. And I never miss fish with that. And the 2 fish before were no problem. I think what I was doing is I was anticipating the bite because I was watching those fish. Yeah. I mean, I was watching my blade bait lift off the bottom and drop. And then the fish were kind of suspended off the bottom about 5 feet, just going through the bait ball. Yeah. And so I was raising it higher and I was letting it drop to the bottom. A lot of those bigger fish will just sit there and wait on the bottom for the little fish to kind of stun those shad, or whatever bait fish they have down there, and the big fish just have an easy meal. So I was fishing below those. I think what was happening was the bait fish were running into my line, because even when I miss fish on those, I'm usually catching them in the chin or something like that, or at least I'll feel like I have them for a second, like I'll snag them or something, and they just roll. Yeah. But I think they were hitting in the line, and I'll tell you, Josh, that was the hardest hitting fish I've ever had. I think I was pulling up and it must have been coming down. It was only like a 17.5-inch fish. So it wasn't a huge fish, but it just hit it. And when I went to go set that hook that last time, I just had missed so many. I just kind of became complacent a little bit and almost dropped the rod in the drink.
And then the best part is it shoots out, it hits you, right? Your rod butt hits you in the face almost, or something.
No, yeah. It's a for lack of a better thing, you can edit it out, but it was a shit show.
So funny. And then you're trying to net it. You see such a rod down, it starts.
Oh yeah, rod just. I mean, it was a comedy of errors that morning. So actually, the only reason I found those fish is we had put in. And we were going to make a pretty long run that day to go where we had scoped out some stuff and got some intel. And I have never had a problem with my Torpedo at all. Yeah. And so everyone's, kind of rolling out. 2 guys with 403s, and then Andrew's got XI3. And I'm kind of getting ready there, and that's giving me the E30 error, which I knew basically it's a contact issue. Mm-hmm. So I kind of messed with it, and I was like, it's a little wet. So I just kind of just left it undone and kind of just pedaled right to the end of the marina right there. And I just happened to run across those. We didn't find another bait ball like that. the entire time. But I just kind of got lucky to find those and work those. The funny thing is, I don't know if Andrew will see this or not, but so Andrew came back to check on me, which what a guy, right? He comes back and I'm waving my hands. I'm taking off. Oh, the Cincy Fisher thing's just, when you net a fish in them, it takes like 10 minutes to get them out of the net just because those sticks or the hooks are so sticky.
Yeah.
So I'm getting the stick out and I see him and I'm waving my arms. I'm like, come here, come over here. And so he comes over and he's got the XI3 with spot lock on his PA14 360. And I'm like, so I go right over the top of the bait ball and I'm like, come over here and drop a waypoint. And so he pulls right on top of the fish, drops a waypoint and turns on spot lock. Right. So I'm like casting like 2 feet off of his boat to get to him, but he pulled out a 19 and a 19 and a half, one largemouth, one smallmouth there, but nice. It was fun. I could actually see his lure and my lure both on the screen at the same time, jigging up and down. So
what all did you have to get to have Livescope? What kind of components was there?
So the Livescope, I bought that right from Garmin, and it comes with the transducer, and then there's a black box, which is the main component. It kind of does the brains. It's pretty heavy. It's like an old Rockford Fosgate amplifier, basically.
That's what it reminded me of.
So there's that, and then just the network cable that comes with that. That network cable goes from that black box to the black box to the back of the Garmin. Mm-hmm. So you can hook it up like that. It was pretty easy. I went from a 20 amp hour Bioena. I upgraded to a 30 amp hour just because I knew that thing would draw some pretty good current. Yeah. I'm getting like 2 days of running without, it's never dropped low enough that anything shut off, but I'm not using Livescope all the time. I'd say maybe 15 to 20%, depending on where and what I'm fishing. Yeah. So there's some days where I've got it so it swings up. It stays on when I'm, me, everything's on my trailer, kayak ready to go. I just swing it up and I got a little strap that straps that down on the cable so that it's not bouncing around or anything. But it was a pretty easy install. I rigged up my own. I had a bunch of scrap aluminum tubing and I kind of rigged it up. I did get the perspective mount, and what that does is that allows you to flip from down mode. So if you're fishing somewhere like in Lake Erie where you want to see equally front and back, you'd use that mode. Most people are using the forward mode, which kind of looks out far. And then the perspective mode, which flips it over on its side. The one thing that I would tell people with the Garmin mount, the Garmin Panoptics mount, Panoptics, the perspective mount, is it's canted over 8 degrees so that when guys are strapping it to their shaft of their trolling motors, it's missing the trolling motor body. So it's a little weird that way. There are companies that make them they're called 0 degree, which don't do that. I wish I would have bought one of those. I'll eventually probably rig something up on mine, but with the way that mine's set up, I can kind of just angle the shaft that I have it on so that it kind of offsets that. But that is one thing. And the perspective mount's expensive. It's like $100 retail. Yeah. And it's really not much of anything other than a piece of a bracket and a little clamp to go over whatever shaft you're putting it on.
And you could probably make that, huh?
Yeah, the guys do. If I could figure out how to program stuff for my 3D printer, I could do it. But here we are.
You'll figure it out.
I haven't used that 3D printer in like a year and a half.
So let's talk about, you recently joined the Strictly Sail team, didn't you?
It's not announced yet.
Oh, oops.
I don't know. They may not.
Not after
sometimes I wonder. Yeah. Some of the conversations we've had at the boat show, I think he's second guessing us a little bit. I'm not saying anything until I'm on there. So, but that is why I started kind of tempering my my strong opinions online in different groups.
colorful commentary.
Well, you know me, I kind of, I'm passionate about things I believe in.
Yeah. So I'm sorry about that, dude. I thought, I'm awful.
It's no
We'll
big
move
deal. I'm
on
sure
away
it's not a
from it.
big deal, but
You've been working the shows though. How's that been going, man?
yeah. So we did I was with Strictly Sail guys down at the Cincinnati fishing show. It was good. I wasn't there I wasn't able to be there Saturday, but it was there Friday and Sunday. It was good. People are amazed. Everybody was there. Even the guy in the Trident was right across the booth from us. So people that, they think of kayaks and they think of these uncomfortable things that they got a couple of them from Dick's or whoever, and they don't realize how far they've come.
Yeah.
Strictly Sales, as they sell New Canoe and Old Town now too. So really, there's something for everybody between all of the Raccoon Creek Outfitters was down there. Loveland Canoe and Kayak was there. So I think it's really good for everyone to see all the different options they have and how easy it is to, to be able to get in a kayak that you can sit in for 8, 12, 14 hours a day and just whatever, however you want it. If you want to get like a new canoe that just, you can do whatever you want to it. You can put a gas motor on it. You could put an XI3, you can put a Torpedo or whatever else out there and set it up how you want to something like the autopilot.
Yeah.
That's built-in spot lock, which I mean, I love my Torpedo. Especially since putting the foot control steering on there, just hands-free. But there's days I watch guys out there and just the 25-mile-an-hour winds and they're standing up and without a care in the world.
Yeah, it makes me jealous too, because I mean, I haven't even gotten in the motorized world yet. My closest thing was the pedal drive last year, but I remember having a specific day where I was catching the shit out of them and you were frustrated in the wind. So.
Which day is that, dude? It was like, we got to narrow it down.
No, that was when we were up north.
Remember? Oh, I remember. I
was catching those 5-pounders like off the
At least
ledge.
you're not rubbing it in, though. That's cool.
And you're over there like just cussing up a storm. Like, I don't get it. I'm doing the same thing with the same bait.
I kept losing fish. There's just times where it's a dark sleeper, man. I love that lure. I wish they made a fine wire version of it, though.
Yeah. Maybe you can make one. We'll put that on Chris Anderson's little bait.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's making some cool stuff, man. He's buying molds every other day, it seems like.
So it is quite the experience. It's a lot of fun. And did you kind of realize like how much you actually know about this stuff and didn't really realize it about talking about kayak fishing and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I've really given up most of my other hobbies, it's just because I'm fishing so much and I love it so much. I love talking about it. I'm in all of the groups, even the ones out the places where I would never fish, just because it's so far. I love other people's opinions. I love hearing about different stuff, and I like helping people when I can. And I like coming up with solutions for people that have issues. It's like, hey, try this or try that. I wasn't really happy with the options of any trailers out there, so I designed and built my own. I wasn't happy with the mounts to be able to do a Torpedo and a micro power pole at the same time, so I built my own. It's just one of those things I like doing. And I'm cheap. I don't want to pay other people what I can do myself.
Well, that's a good thing you're mechanically inclined like that to be able to do it, because people like me, I'm like, I'll just buy it, Or I'm notorious for like waiting to the last minute, and I'm like, oh, we're supposed to go here in 2 weeks, you know what I mean? And then it's like, better put that,
right
on a quick shipment on the way.
Yeah, but you're a people person and I'm not, so we're all good at something.
So what's your plans this year for the tournament scene?
I really struggle with tournaments. I'm always going to do the CKF stuff and BKFT ones where it makes sense for me to go.
Yeah.
But like when we went up to St. Clair and we talked about that, when you're stressed because you're only catching 19.5-inch 5-pound smallmouth, not 20-inch because Tahir Ali's, he's got 105 inches by 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It kind of takes the fun away from me. I like being around other people that are doing it. I'm not that competitive in fishing, or I don't want it to ruin that, because this is what I do to relax. Hockey is what I kind of do to get the aggression out and stuff. Well, I did. I'm been forced into retirement again. But so that, I like going and, I like when we go go for a day or whatever and go and all just fish together as a group and see new water and hang out. We're all cheering each other on. I like that. And that's why I think I like, my only really experience with local stuff is the CKF, and it's just got that thing. I love when new guys come out. I like telling them what not to do, because I don't know what to tell them to do. But I just like that aspect of it, the camaraderie. A lot of that started. I didn't know when I first got into kayak fishing. I didn't know that there were kayaks like what we have now. I didn't know about the Jacksons and the new canoes and the Hobies. I got online and started reading reviews on Bass Pro Shop, which I'm sure a lot of people do, and bought my first fishing kayak based off of reviews. And then it just wasn't the right kayak for me.
Never ascend.
Friends don't let friends buy a sense. Never send. Oh, sorry. But yeah, so I had, it wasn't my fit. And then, the progression was, hey, I saw Drew Gregory on YouTube. I found, and I'm like, wait a minute. And at the time I thought my best chance of catching fish in Southwest Ohio was the rivers, the Little Miami mainly, the Great Miami. I wasn't as familiar with at the time. So I thought that was the way I was going to go. And I'm watching Drew Gregory jump around and do 360s and land and throw this thing around. So me being about 5'10", 235 at the time, I bought one from Loveland Canoe and Kayak. And I'm like, oh, this is my jam. And then I got in and I'm like, well, this is not, he made that look really easy. Well, it wasn't until later I found out Drew Gregory's like 125 pounds. And I was like, oh, well, that's so, but I love that kayak. But then, the rivers, I wasn't as familiar with the rivers as far as all the access points and stuff. That's why I love going with you. Cause you're like, oh, we're going to go from here to here. I just didn't have that knowledge of those. So I found Cowan Lake, and then that was my new jam, because it was a 10 horsepower restricted lake. It was easy to get to. I liked it. It was a beautiful lake, scenic. And I caught fish there, but in that Jackson kayak and that Coosa, that thing is not made to be paddling across a lake. It didn't glide. It tracked like crap. Just not made for that. And it was like, man, I'd go out fishing with our friends and they would have like this cheap sit in, and they're freaking just flying across the water like a little water bug. And then that's when I'm like, all right, I'm kind of into this. I'm doing it. I had no idea that there were tournaments were a thing at all, national or local or anything. And I didn't know none of my friends before I met you guys. None of them fish. Not like I fish. You know what I mean? They're like, oh yeah, they're coming out with this combo with, the brass, the big brass swivel and bobber, and I'm like, that was not my thing. And then that's when I got my first pedal drive. I was super excited that I bought that Jackson Coosa FD, and that really opened it up. Or all right, I want to explore this lake and be able to go around.
And then you got in the Hobie.
Well, that's a Jackson Coosa FD. It's still around for a reason. It's a great boat. It's a great boat. It works for a lot of people, but I made the huge mistake. What I tell people all the time now at the show: don't buy anything over $800 unless you can get in it and try it and see if you
Yeah.
like it. At all the local shops, you can demo it.
Mhm.
Don't spend that money. I spent $3,000 on a kayak I never demoed.
Yeah.
And it was kind of the concept, and it was a brand new thing. It was their first pedal drive. It was all this. I didn't have really any problems with the drive.
Yeah.
It was more that boat. I never felt stable, and standing up in it was tough for me.
Yeah.
I would say, a lot of people tried to compare that to the Hobie. It's a different thing. I would say the Hobie Outback is a better thing because you're kind of a fire jet. I consider like the Hobie Outback like Corvette, and the PA-14 and the Big Rig are like Suburbans.
Yeah. Well, you know what I found was weird is that I found like the Big Rig FD felt better and moved better than the Kusa FD. I don't like, there was something about the design for the Kusa FD for me that I found, because I got into a Big Rig first and then took an FD out once for a weekend. And I was like, man, I'm convinced that the Big Rig FD turned better and was faster, even though it's a much bigger boat and weighed more, but I don't know. It was just, it was weird for me.
What people don't realize is that these aren't planing haul. Well, everyone knows it's not a plane haul, but there's a haul speed. So there's actually a formula that you can say like, hey, this is the fastest this boat will go before it starts to become really inefficient.
Yeah.
And so the longer the boat is, how much of that boat is out of the water and the width are all really relative. That's why that Kusa is such a good boat in the river. You could spin around in circles on that thing.
Yeah.
But it's short and fat.
Yeah.
It's only a 10-foot boat, but it's wide and it just doesn't glide.
Yeah. So with that being said, Mike it's crazy to see the progression as you're talking about it and thinking about it, because you went from, just having a little bit of stuff, and now you're a total gear nerd. Like you had to get a Hobie. Like there's no choice about it, because you've heard me. One of my biggest gripes. I love the Big Rig FD. Like I love the boat. I love the way it feels. I like the pedal stuff. It wasn't that big of a deal for me in regards to like what the 360 drive can do. Now, mind you, I've never been in it, so I can't say, oh, I wouldn't love it, but I really did and I really still love that Big Rig FD. But I bitched and bitched and bitched about how with the storage, like putting my stuff in that boat, and I don't even have remotely the same amount, close to the same amount of stuff that you take. And I was still frustrated. And I mean, it's hard not to beat the setup on the Hobies. Like everything that you did compared, like when we went to wherever we went, you were just always so much more efficient with the internal rod storage. Everything for you was like, boom, launching a bass boat, we were gone. I'd have to drag my stuff out of the truck, hook up some stuff. I mean, I got better at it by learning from you, obviously, like what I should have on there and not have on there the night before. But I mean, I still every night still had to take the rods out, and that sort of thing. And then it was even crazier when me and you and Brandon went to freaking St. Clair, and we're throwing a Big Rig up on top.
I'll never do that again. I was just talking with someone the other day. I was trying to work it out where I was going to go down to Toledo Bend. That's bucket list. And some guys are like, hey, we have this. I was like, hey, look, my trailer, I built it to hold 4 PA-14s. I'm not putting it up there. Like, it's not happening. I don't even like not water launching my boat, like wet launching it. It's, and that's the thing. I think that the biggest difference for me is everything I have, from my truck to my tackle boxes, it's a system, and I treat it like that. What I do for a living is integrate systems. I take all these different things, lighting, audio, video, HVAC, all these things, and I make them all work together for people to make it as simple as possible for them.
Yeah.
And that's just how I think. And it's always how I've always thought. So, the reason why I'm so efficient at the ramp and the reason I fish so much is because it's so easy for me. Back in the day when I used to have to throw that Kusa FD in the back of my truck, and put the J crate in there and the rods, and then get there. And I said, there was days where if I'm just not going to go, I don't feel like doing that, or I don't have enough time. I'm only going to be able to fish a couple hours. I just didn't go as much. And one of the other things too is weather. If it was windy out, I didn't want to go fishing. I just didn't want to go. It was just it was frustrating. It was a pain. I hadn't figured out how to deal with that yet. And now everything that I have from, like I said, my trailer, how that trailer set up, how the trailer's relative to all my gear with the Torpedo and all the bells and whistles I have all work together perfectly, even down to my tackle storage. So, and
it's important because, I mean, the community's gotten so it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And that's what's cool about it, is there's guys like you and me and all the people that, I love, like how we've get these Facebook groups going, like the Cincinnati one, and you get somebody new and they're like, really green with it. And don't hesitate to ask questions. And because you're going to learn a lot, and sometimes it's going to be overwhelming because people are going to throw a lot of information at you, but come prepared. One of the biggest things I always found frustrating was that somebody wants to try to get into it, and then you realize they have a really small budget, and the stuff's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's not so frustrating by it. Because, I mean, if you can only do so much, that's fine, but still ask the questions and be specific of what you're looking for and what you're fishing, because you'll get the answers that you need. And some of them you're not going to like, because some people are going to be truthful about it. Like Mike's just pointing out. And I was in the same exact boat as Mike. My first boat was a Coosa HD, and I remember going out on the lake for the first time and paddling around Cowan and getting sick because of the amount of exertion I was putting on my body in 100-degree weather on, 4th of July weekend. And it's real. It's not as easy. A lot of people think, oh, kayaking, because they see some family members, and they go on the lake, but they're also not carrying a bunch of gear, anchors or tackle. You'd be surprised how quick that stuff can add up,
Yeah. I mean, the thing is you don't have to have all the stuff that we have. I mean, look at the success Melissa Keg had fishing out of a sit-in kayak with a couple rods with her, no electronics, zero electronics. And she would go out there, and she wasn't winning tournaments, but she learned, and she was alongside, and she asked the right questions. She fished with the right people. Where now that she's gotten pedal kayak and electronics, I mean, she's up there in every tournament, and every local tournament. And, at some point she's going to start doing some of the national stuff, and she's going to kill it.
We're gonna have Chris.
Oh man, we gotta get the whole group on here one time, and just I don't know if anybody would listen, but it'd be a blast.
We might have to release that incognito.
Yeah, it might be. What do you guys have, the late night ones?
Oh yeah, that'd be a funny one. Yeah, maybe I'll record one with you guys, and I'll be like, here's a after hours episode.
You'd be able to use about 15 minutes out of 2 hours.
Yeah, there is a point where even on after hours we got to be careful. But yeah, I mean, you make a great point. Like, this is all about getting around the right people, asking the right questions, and then when I say, like, be specific, we mean be specific. Like, get as detailed as you can of what you're looking for and where you're fishing, kind of what your future plans are, because then we can point somebody in the right direction. And because, like, Mike's in a Hobie 360, that's not going to be a boat that is going, even if you have all the money in the world, that still might not be what you're looking for, so get on those Facebook groups, and the biggest thing is demo, I mean, demo as much as you can. Cause I almost didn't even kayak fish because my first experience in a kayak and fishing was awful. And then eventually I ended up buying the Coosa HD, and then I really fell in love with fishing in the rivers, and that's been my thing. But with that being said, fishing in that boat in a lake was awful. And so I rarely would fish lakes, and if I did, they were really ultra small, like, places like, just a few acres big, or, that's underestimating it, but, really, really small acreage. And it's, and then when I got into a pedal drive, that made it a lot easier. And then I'm like, and then I'm fishing with Mike and a bunch of dudes that got motors, and everybody's leaving me in the dust. And I'm like, back to square one again, but that still made it a lot easier though. So that's what you guys got to look, for. Don't jump into it without doing your research. Even if you're going to buy a cheaper kayak, you may find that if you just wait, another season or so, that you may find something that is going to be better. Just get out and demo what you can. I mean, go to these smaller shops, because there's a lot of really, really good kayak manufacturers that are jumping on the scene right now, or in the past couple years, that are making really affordable kayaks, and they're really, really nice. They got a lot of stuff that your standard Bass Pros don't have, and even the Bass Pros and the Cabela's of the world and everything are starting to get some of these boats in their shop, in their stores too.
Well, they're trying to hit a price point for people, but if you look at, I'm always looking for kayaks, to pick up. I just love them. It's like a Jay Leno with all of his cars, except I have a different budget. But if you look at companies like Hobie, Jackson, New Canoe, Old Town, even Vibe, I'm probably missing one. Sorry. Look how well they hold their value.
Yeah.
And especially so if you buy something secondhand, you're probably going to be able to sell it for pretty close to what you paid for it. The first guy that gets it brand new, it's not as bad as a car, but if you look at there, you could find a good deal. If it was me, I have no qualms at all about buying a used kayak. I mean, it's not electronic for the most part. So, you can kind of look at it and say, hey, this is, this thing's solid, or this thing was just, you can just tell when they're not taken care of. They got leaves and stuff on them. They're all sun faded. But the thing is, I have all the only reason I can have the Hobie and the Torpedo and the Livescope is because I'm at a point in my life now where my kids are grown and I'm single. Shocking, I know, but this is my hobby, this is my passion, and that's why it's so important for me to be able to just go. I mean, there's a lot of days where I'll finish my day up at 3:00. I can stop by the house or the shop, wherever my trailer is. I'm hooked up and ready to go in less than 5 minutes. And then when I get to that ramp, I'm less than 10 minutes from the time that I put the truck in park and start rigging on my kayak before I launch it.
Yeah.
But so, a lot of these people are at these shows, these kids are looking at them like, oh man, I can't afford this now, but you're going to be able to. And I think it's important for us all to the next generation and the generation after that to be good stewards of the sport and show them, take a kid fish, take them out in your extra boat with them. Yeah. I think probably one of the happiest times I had all summer is when we took your boys out to the lake and they were fishing, and that was a blast. And those, the young kids now that are, 14, 15 years old, that, maybe they ask for their birthday or Christmas for a sit-in or just anything, and it gets them on the water. It's going to create the sport. It's going to be better for all of us. Yeah. We've got a couple guys in CKF. One, Jake Martin. That guy was in a paddle kayak with a little fish finder, and he was killing it this year. There's a guy, I think his name's Brock, that's in the BKFT. Yeah. He's killing it up there. Those young guys, they're on YouTube all the time. They're learning all the time, even when they're not on the water.
Yeah.
Those guys are going to be studs, and some of them already are studs. So.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's one of my favorite things when we're working the shows is, meeting new people. And like the best thing that I found was not being competitive with the other shops. You know what I mean?
There's no need for it. Everyone,
Well, you're going to grow that, you know what I mean? And the way, and you know how it works, man. Like you get into it and you really start getting into it. You start hopping around the different boats, you know, everybody's going to get a little bit of peace, just chill out, you know? And, but we, because like the Raccoon Creek guys are awesome. Dustin Hoy over there he's got a sweet shop. Brian's got an awesome shop. I love going down to Strictly Sail and seeing all the boats I can't afford. And, you know, and then, you know, we worked with Loveland and it's, it was a lot of fun, you know, cause we'd be talking to them, you know, at the show and be like, all right, well, come over here, go check out the Strictly Sail guys. They know their thing over here. You know, this boat might be a better fit for you for what you're doing. Cause if you're, you know, like, it's like, especially some of the serious tournament anglers, you know, cause I mean, you know, we had Jackson and Bonafide and, you know, we put a lot of people in those Bonafides that year. Yeah, and the Crescents. Well, Crescents came up the next following year. And that was where we kind of, I don't want to say unveiled, but that was where we were starting to see them, you know, in the hands of the dealers. And that next following season, man, they couldn't keep them stocked up. But the Bonafide, right when those shows happened, was when Bonafide had all the special ed edition ones,
right?
Like the Black Widow one and the SX one, and that Hawaiian looking one. Dude, and you know, a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's goofy." I'm like, "There's somebody out there who's gonna love it." And dude, there was a guy who came and bought that teal Hawaiian themed boat, and he was the last person in the world that I thought would have bought that kayak. Like college dude. About 6'5", 220 pounds of muscle, takes that boat and throws it on top of his Jeep Cherokee and drove home with it, dude, from the show. And so, you know, what might be my thing is not Mike's thing, is not, you know, Joe Blow's thing. So
yeah, well, the thing that everyone needs to keep in mind, and I see it a lot. I'm in all of the, you know, the newbies, you know, like the KBNs, all the Hobies, Jackson, all those different groups. People say, what's the best kayak? And everyone's going to tell you whatever they have, you know? So I try to not do that. I love my kayak. I've loved my Jackson's kayaks. I just basically just keep harping on what you said earlier, which is demo, and find something you like. Cause there's nothing worse. I had that feeling that when I had that Ascend, like I did that and I bought it and I sat in it and I tried to stand up and my sons are flying by me and this thing is just like a barge. I had that little sinking feeling in my heart, like that $800 some I spent was not the best way I should have spent it.
Yeah. Hey, that's where we learn from it, right?
Yeah, it gets expensive though. Whoever coined the phrase buy your second kayak first?
Yeah.
It was a genius. Like that should be on t-shirts.
Yeah. The one thing I always come back to is Chad Hoover talked about this. It was in one of his videos, I think, and he made a really good point. He's like, you know, a lot of people they jump on that 10-foot thing because of the price point. He's like, but if you wait out and you kind of research, and you could probably pick up a used kayak, you know, that's bigger and longer. He's like, it's better to go longer and skinnier than it is short and fat.
Hey.
So because of the speed of it and the ease of paddling, you know what I mean? It's like I told you. I mean, I have the Kilroy HD, right?
Yeah.
And that boat is really wide, but it's very long. And it is actually a much faster kayak to paddle than my Coosa HD was.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't turn as easy, obviously, but it does good enough that I'm comfortable with it. You know, I've gotten enough time in the river to be able to read the water to make
that thing draws hardly any water either. I mean, that thing's like it's like skitters across the water.
But one of the things that he pointed out is if you're gonna, this is gonna be your first time, you know, first boat purchase, it's actually better to put a good chunk of money into the paddle. And dude, I could not agree with it more. And
It
know
does
these
make
things
an
are
incredible
outrageously
difference.
expensive sometimes, but it makes the world's biggest difference for fatigue when you
It
first
really
start.
does. It really does. Yeah. I think the biggest limiting factor for a lot of people that I talk to is the vehicle that they have to put it on in or pull it with, and space in the garage, to store it. So a lot of people, that's they're both really significant factors in that. I don't know that I would use my Hobie very often if I had to put that thing in my truck. Or even if I, have to wheel it very far. I mean, it's I don't know that I can fit anything more in it than what I have.
Well, yours kind of looks like Bass Pro threw up in it half the time. So
Bass Pro.
It's a walking tackle trash can.
It really is.
Walking, but
I love. Someone said you don't have to worry about the guy with 10 rods in his kayak on the tournament day. You got to worry about the guy with 2 because he knows what he's doing. Like I just throw it's like the old Call of Duty, the spray and pray. You just go out there with 2 Uzis, double wielding, and just spray and hope I hit something.
Well, dude, I think we'll wrap this up, man. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, if anybody's in the Cincinnati area this week, we're down at the boat show. We have a demo pool. We've got pretty much, I think, every Hobie and Old Town kayak down there. We have some feel frees, and then some stand-up paddle boards too. Not paddle boards, they're like the Hobie pedal ones where you stand up and down. Some inflatables, new canoes that if you're serious about buying, we can throw it in the pool and you can demo it right there in the show. It's only 3 foot deep.
Heck yeah.
So, and then we'll be at the Columbus Fishing Show, whenever the Columbus Fishing Show is. It's next month, but
heck yeah, man. Well,
all right.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, man.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. It's always good to hang out with you.
We're going to do this more often, I think.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do some other episodes that probably won't air, but we'll try.
That's too bad. We could mic ourselves up on the water and then obviously wouldn't be able to do live or anything, but edit it together. I think it would be fantastic.
Well, I remember when we were at St. Clair and I caught that big one and I had to edit it, but
when you were in that bracket thing,
I had to play music behind it the whole time because of the language.
Yeah,
and you were making fun of me the whole time.
Oh God, it was. I mean, I would say 5 of my best friends I've met just through kayak fishing.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's just, we all, have different styles, different ways we like to do things. And when we get together, it's a blast. And it's probably the best ab workout I get from laughing at all the stupid stuff we do and say. But I'm looking forward to doing it again.
All right, buddy. Well, you take care, everybody.
You too.
Thanks again for listening to the final cast, and we'll catch you next week. See you.
Good night.